Okay, great. All right. Okay. I call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. Thank you. The clerk can call the roll.
Councilmember Porter is absent. Councilmember Middleton, Councilmember Kavanaugh, Council President Matavetsky, Councilmember Dundon, Councilmember Costi, Councilmember Hotchkiss. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. I'm looking for a motion to suspend the rules so that the mayor may come up and present. Motion by Councilwoman Middleton, seconded by Councilman Dundon. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Great. Thank you so much. I'm going to pass things off to our Chair of Finance for the introduction to the mayor. Come on up.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming. City Council would like to welcome Mayor Cram to the podium in a moment to present the 2025 proposed budget. City Council will be studying the budget over the coming weeks in somewhat I'm sure will be riveting Finance Committee meetings that are viewable on YouTube. So stay tuned. We will be taking a lot of time and consideration to go through the budget line by line with department heads and working in concert with the mayor's office and the deputy mayor. This budget is the work of a couple of months at least by city staff and department heads that have been putting a lot of work in. The budget represents a melding of what the city hopes to work on, hopes to achieve, meeting with the realities of what we are able to afford. And it is a trying process to put together. And I thank everyone that has contributed to it. In particular, our new comptroller, Chuck Robinson, has been, I think, having some sleepless nights, getting it all in order and in on time, which did happen. Printed copies appeared in front of the clerk's office yesterday afternoon. So thanks for everyone's wonderful efforts in together. And City Council is looking forward to having our look and our pass at it. With that said, I would again like to thank everyone for coming and welcome down Mayor Jared Cram.
We put that right in. Take care of that for you.
All right.
Okay. I think some of the folks continue to find your seats. Don't be shy. Welcome the CARES folks here today. We also have, before we begin, a number of elected officials with us today and other community members. We have County Clerk Joe Mahauko, who's with us tonight, as well as Todd and Dickinson Supervisor Mike Marinaccio, from the Binghamton City School Board, Marianne Callahan. We also have representing Governor Kathy Hochul, Harris Weiss, Chano Briga representing Congressman Mark Molinaro, as well as a number of leaders in local nonprofit, small business, and community organizations. Special thank you to my mom, Wallace, who's joining us tonight, as well as my wife and Binghamton's First Lady, Lucy Spina, who's in the audience tonight. Thank you very much. Members of City Council, invited guests, and those watching at home, good evening. A few weeks ago, I visited C.H. Thompson, a powder coating and finishing company on Binghamton's north side. Their products supply industries like aerospace, healthcare, and the military. Not long ago, they had 50 employees. Now they're at 67, looking to hire a dozen more to support a new production line. These are good-paying jobs with benefits that don't require a college degree. Employees come from all walks of life. Many walk to work from the same neighborhood. An urban manufacturer supporting key American industries. and building ladders to the middle class and beyond. All you need is a high school diploma and a will to work. You can find these stories all across Binghamton, signs of a community on the rise. All you have to do is look. There's not a manufacturing firm in Binghamton that isn't hiring. Many, like C.H. Thompson, are working with us on plans to expand and create new jobs. Binghamton is no longer New York State's property tax king. Home values have soared, and in the last census, the city's population grew for the first time since 1950. New housing projects have waiting lists, highlighting the demand for more housing, but also the fact that people want to live and move into the city of Binghamton in a way we haven't seen, certainly in my lifetime. Downtown Binghamton is the cultural and entertainment destination it was always destined to be. Sold-out crowds at the arena and ballpark, packed art galleries, the best local independent restaurants in our region. Binghamton's sense of community is strong too, with thousands coming together on the west side for Porch Fest. I saw the organizers, Ellie Rooney and Katie Perkins, here tonight, so thank you. And Luma, captivating young and old with creativity and technologic wonder. City Hall is fighting for residents and winning key court battles, prosecuting slumlords who prey on vulnerable families, and securing lockdowns on properties that harbor criminal activity. And we have some of the lowest crime rates in 40 years. We're taking on the problems some gave up on long ago and leading on challenges that oftentimes expand beyond our borders. Heading into 2025, City Hall has more than just a seat at the table. We're influencing statewide policy and legislation and delivering federal funding back to Binghamton in ways we've rarely seen before. We all feel it. We can feel it in this room. Binghamton has changed, and there's a lot to be optimistic about. But challenges remain. A third of our families live in poverty, including 40% of our children. That's down from a few years ago, but there's a lot more work to do. And too many residents live in unsafe housing. Even more pay higher rents than they can afford. While we fight tooth and nail to clear the way for new construction, providing funding, cutting red tape, and advocating for more help from Albany and Washington, families and seniors in Binghamton are frankly just waiting too long for shovels to hit the ground on the next project. We face the fiscal realities of running local government during an inflationary period. Commodity prices are up, so too are energy costs and health insurance. Equipment and vehicles have never been more expensive. And staying competitive in the labor market means raising salaries so we can attract and retain the best public servants. And while crime rates are at their lowest in decades, illegal guns are still finding their ways on our streets, and drug trafficking continues to ruin lives and lead to violence. There's not a neighborhood or business district in Binghamton that isn't calling for more resources to boost public safety. Solving these problems are costly, but I would argue they're so worthwhile. After years moving Binghamton forward in the right direction, now is not the time to keep our foot off the gas pedal. We have to continue to be bold, to put aside a long history of cynics telling us that certain problems are too big to solve, or that Binghamton is just too small to get results. City Hall has to continue leading, fighting for our neighborhoods, and making the smart investments that will help us win the next decade and beyond. This budget helps us answer that call. The city's 2025 budget is approximately $108 million. That includes the general fund, which supports day-to-day operations of city government at $76 million. It also encompasses multiple enterprise funds for vital services like water and sewer services, refuse collection, and parking. The city's largest source of revenue is local property taxes at $35 million next year. Sales tax provides the next largest form of revenue at $16.7 million. In 2025, the city will see its first increase in state aid in more than a decade. The city is slated to receive more than $10 million in state aid called AIM funding, which is a 12% increase over last year. We're grateful to Governor Hochul, Assemblywoman Lepardo, and Senator Webb for supporting this long overdue boost in funding. And our fund balance remains a healthy $18.2 million. With rising costs and economic uncertainty nationwide, keeping this fund strong helps protect taxpayers against wild tax swings. The single largest financial challenge facing the city right now is the increased costs tied to inflation, interest rates, as well as employee benefits, costs that are largely outside of our control. City's debt service payments will increase by $1.3 million next year, totaling $20.1 million. Salaries and employee benefits remain our largest annual expenditure, and in 2025, they will total $60 million. And our health insurance costs will grow by 5% next year to $10.2 million. Our mandatory contributions to the New York State retirement system, set by the New York State Comptroller and tied partially to the performance of the stock market, will climb more than 16% next year, costing the city more than $19.3 million. It's the second significant increase we've had to deal with in as many years. Retirement costs for police and fire departments alone are up by $900,000. And these two departments account for roughly 68% of the city's total expenditures on salaries and employee benefits. Speaking of fire, Binghamton's firefighters responded to nearly 11,000 calls for service last year. In the 2025 budget, we'll have an $11.3 million expenditure. Since taking office, my administration has made unprecedented investments in our fire department, prioritizing resources to keep our firefighters safe. We've replaced outdated fire apparatus, a new rescue truck for fire headquarters, a new pumper truck for the South Side, and on order, a new tower truck. These investments will total more than $3.4 million. Our new fire headquarters on Court Street is open and operational, and we've completed $1 million in critical upgrades to our neighborhood fire stations. One station on Binghamton's north side did not receive upgrades. Built in 1960, the West State Street Fire Station has significant needs. To fix the foundation alone would cost the city millions and disrupt service. The city is better off making an investment in a new fire station that will support emergency response efforts for decades to come. Tonight, I'm announcing that next year, we'll work with the fire department leadership, fire union, and architects to begin the process of site selection and design for a brand new fire station on Binghamton's north side. In 1960, the fire station cost a total of $86,000 to build. We'll probably spend a little bit more than that, right, Chief? But in the end, we'll create a neighborhood anchor and state-of-the-art public safety facility. And with a multi-year approach, we'll work to secure state and federal grants to ease the burden on local taxpayers. To Chief Gardner, to Captain Holleran, and members that you represent. From fire apparatus to new facilities, this administration is steadfast in our support of first responders and the life-saving work you do. Thank you very much. In 2025, we'll continue to push the build, our push to build the infrastructure of Binghamton's future. Next year's budget will invest $7.6 million as part of annual repairs and upgrades to our streets, curbs, sidewalks, and other critical infrastructure. That includes replacing aging water and sewer lines, keeping our drinking water safe, and our neighborhoods protected from flooding. By consolidating 2 vacant positions in our engineering department, we'll add a second licensed professional engineer who will work alongside City Engineer Ron Lake to improve planning and management of infrastructure priorities. City Council and I share a commitment to more robust capital planning, and this position will support those efforts. We're continuing to use the latest technology to assess our infrastructure needs. With the help of AI, we're capturing images of all 151 miles of city streets, rating road conditions, and getting actionable data. This mapping, which is available right now on the city's website, guides which streets are in need of paving, and has kept Binghamton on the cutting edge of municipal innovation. Next year, dozens of city neighborhood streets will be paved, including Baxter Street, Howard Avenue, Mozart Street, and Spring Lane. Smart infrastructure investments are important, but these projects are not accomplished without the hardworking men and women of Public Works. Under the leadership of Commissioner Josh Paludi and Deputy Commissioner Fran McManus, these crews are out there every day, rain or shine, snowstorm or heat wave, collecting trash, patching potholes, plowing snow, cleaning up code violations, and generally making sure our city is clean and safe. They simply don't get enough credit. Please join me in thanking them right now. Next year, we'll advance a $4 million project to improve Main Street, focusing on pedestrian safety. We'll install new pedestrian signals and construct bump outs to make it safer for the many high school students and residents who walk the corridor. 75% of the project costs will be covered by federal grant dollars. In 2025, we'll also break ground on more upgrades to create a walkable downtown arts district. With $4.4 million, we'll build a transformative second phase of the Deco streetscape improvements, extending down Henry Street, Washington Street, and Lewis Street. Anchored by the Forum Theater, this area will receive improvements like new lighting and landscaping, pedestrian safety upgrades, and a full street reconstruction. Work will also begin on a major project to transform the area around Mirabito Stadium. Thanks to a $5 million federal grant spearheaded by Congressman Mark Molinaro, we'll get to work making Henry Street safer and more attractive. The 2-year, $9.5 million project includes a full reconstruction of Henry Street, adding landscaping and removing medians. We'll also fix significant stormwater issues that have contributed to flooding in that area. These are transformative projects in Binghamton's downtown and key corridors. They point to our standing as a regional leader in turning Complete Streets policy into action, investing in public infrastructure built not just to support cars, but pedestrians, cyclists, and the small businesses that share the street. I've said this many times. Infrastructure is the foundation of local jobs and commerce. It's what keeps residents and businesses moving, creating good-paying construction jobs, and pumping more money into our local economy. In 2025, if you add up our annual maintenance spending and the projects that I've just outlined, Binghamton will be spending $21 million on infrastructure upgrades in 2025 alone. We should be thinking big when it comes to infrastructure, and we should be thinking outside the box. We learned exactly how that was effective just last year when our report on the condition of Binghamton's railroad bridges attracted national attention and prompted Norfolk Southern to spend millions of dollars repairing their infrastructure. The railroad company completed a full rehabilitation of the Glenwood Ave overpass last year, and major work on Jarvis Street and Front Street bridges will wrap up this year. For a $44,000 engineering study and some work by me from the bully pulpit, we delivered serious results for Binghamton residents. We also have to think about the infrastructure of tomorrow, green infrastructure. We can draw inspiration just a few blocks away, where Vines will soon open their new headquarters on Susquehanna Street, the first net zero energy building in Binghamton. The city provided a $300,000 grant to support the work, helping revitalize an important part of Binghamton's urban core and grow the organization's impact on youth programs. The project also shines a spotlight on the city playing a leading role in advancing clean energy solutions for the future. Last year, the city of Binghamton was certified as a climate smart community by the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. Next year, we will make a major step forward to build out our green infrastructure. First, by upgrading City Hall's lighting to LED technology, weatherizing the building, and modernizing key systems to save energy. Tonight, I'm also very proud to announce that we will also install a network of 42 new electric vehicle charging stations throughout the city at our DPW garage, Sherry Lindsay, First Ward, and Recreation Parks, Ely Park Golf Course, Ross Park, and Mirabito Stadium. It will be the largest municipal network of public charging stations in our community. And here's the best part. These investments will pay for themselves through energy savings annually with unprecedented federal clean jobs incentives costing taxpayers $0 at the local level. In 2025, we'll cut the ribbon on something Binghamton has never had before, a city-run youth recreation center. After years of negotiations, the city closed a deal earlier this year with St. Mary's Parish to buy the St. Mary's Rec Center downtown and upgrade the space with the help of a $1 million grant from Senator Chuck Schumer. The building will allow Binghamton Parks and Recreation to expand programming, providing kids with a safe place year-round and offering more for residents of all ages. And as long as I'm mayor, Binghamton kids won't ever have to pay a dime to access these programs. I want to give a special thank you to Parks Commissioner Nick Ballard, Assistant Director Shane Hurd, and their entire staff for their work to get this deal closed and for all they do on behalf of Binghamton kids. Nick, Shane, thank you very much. That's not all we'll do with parks. Tonight, I'm announcing a $100,000 investment in Ross Park on the south side, advancing much needed repairs for the visitor parking lot. On the west side, we'll renovate the Recreation Park pool area with the help of a $230,000 state grant, replacing the pool deck and building a new picnic and entrance area. The project is part of a new state SWIMS program, which aims to expand access to water recreation in our urban areas. A few weeks ago, Governor Hochul announced the city of Binghamton would be part of the first round of grant awardees. And downtown, we're working with community partners like the Rice Foundation to guide future upgrades at Columbus Park, leveraging that new rec center right next door and making the park a hub for recreation and play. Amy Rice is here on behalf of the Rice Foundation. Amy, thank you for your advocacy for our Center City neighborhood. Thanks, Amy. Each year, the city allocates roughly $3 million in funding from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to fund projects all across the city. The funding goes towards revitalizing neighborhoods, fighting poverty, expanding opportunities for low and middle income residents. In 2025, we're putting that funding to great use, putting $575,000 towards helping seniors and other residents make home repairs and young families buy their first home. $162,000 will support programs for residents facing homelessness. We've set aside $468,000 to tear down blighted properties, including several the city took in a settlement win from Isaac Anzarud, formerly Binghamton's most notorious slumlord. I'm thrilled to announce that these demolitions will begin in the coming months. We'll use $130,000 of that federal money to pave roads in lower income neighborhoods. And more than $196,000 will support youth programs like those run by Vines and the Boys and Girls Club. Executive Director of the Boys and Girls Club, Mary Beth Smith, is with us tonight. Mary Beth, thank you for your commitment to Binghamton's youth. The city will continue to partner with CARES to provide free backpacks and school supplies to Binghamton students, because every child deserves to start the school year with what they need to learn and succeed. And if you didn't see their yellow shirts as they walked in, representatives from CARES are here tonight. Denise Y'all, you are a champion for Binghamton youth, and you and your organization are doing wonders for the city of Binghamton. Denise, thank you. We can best help our families by growing our tax base and creating jobs. Our community's economic future should not be defined by rumors of which chain restaurant might be coming next. Those profits leave our community. Those businesses don't set us apart. What will set Binghamton apart? Unique and local small businesses and experiences you can't find anywhere but here. That's what builds community, establishes identity, and creates the quality of life that will help us grow. To me, that's why Clinton Street is so important. It's ripe for revitalization. Historic storefronts, walkable footprint, development-ready commercial spaces, and a great residential neighborhood nearby. The city's economic development team, led by Sarah Gloss, is fighting for funding to make our vision for Clinton Street a reality. An award through the New York State Downtown Revitalization Initiative would deliver $10 million to rejuvenate this neighborhood business district, and it's the kind of investment that the First Ward deserve. We will continue to chase those funds. It's also why the future of the Binghamton Plaza matters too. For too long, our city's namesake plaza has been the symbol of decline, shuttered storefronts and crumbling infrastructure, a shell of the bustling shopping plaza it once was decades ago. It wasn't something I would accept. Binghamton residents deserve better. My first months in office, we took legal action against the plaza owners, jumpstarting a process for the city to gain control of this longtime eyesore. Our first court victory led to payment of more than $500,000 in back taxes to the city, school district, and county. And this spring, a court ruled in our favor on eminent domain. Once the city takes title, it will be the beginning of a long process to clean up the 24-acre site, expand access to the nearby Sherry Lindsay Park, and clear the way for future development. I've allocated $2 million in next year's budget to support demolition of the site. We've taken the first steps, and we are not looking back. We want to bring good-paying jobs to Binghamton. We have to make sure that we have the housing to support them. New York State is facing a crippling housing crisis. Too many families live in subpar, sometimes dangerous conditions, paying more than they should in rent. Seniors looking to downsize have nowhere to go, leaving them holding on to large homes better suited for young families. Young people who land jobs here, eager to put down roots, struggle to find a place to live. It's a serious challenge facing cities all across America. And while it cannot be solved on the local level alone, Binghamton is building a model for how communities can lead on creating new housing opportunities. Here's what we're up against. We have to build more housing. Everyone agrees on that. But given the cost of construction today, it's just not feasible for the private sector or even nonprofits to build new units and charge affordable rents without any help. The only way these projects pencil out is with grants, local tax incentives like pilots, and low-income housing tax credits, which is a federal program administered by New York State. Every new unit of affordable housing built in this state roughly follows the same path. But the awarding of those grants and incentives are highly competitive and painfully slow, meaning the city of Binghamton might have one project a year that gets funded. And for several years, developers were choosing not to apply for projects in Binghamton because of a bad state policy that limited the number of applications a developer could submit. I advocated to the governor's office, state housing officials to change that policy, and they did. Now, Binghamton has a healthy pipeline of projects representing hundreds and hundreds of units of affordable housing. In the last few years, the city of Binghamton has invested more than $12.5 million in affordable housing. That funding has leveraged millions more from the state and private sector, supporting the construction and rehabilitation of hundreds of units for low-income and middle-class residents. This level of investment is unmatched in Broome County, and here's what we're seeing as a result. On the north side, a $47 million project to rehabilitate Town and Country Apartments is finally ready for reconstruction. The city has allocated $3 million to support that work, our largest single investment in an affordable housing project. It underscores just how important this project is, fixing one of the worst, if not the worst, properties in our community. Tenants live with plumbing and heating issues, infestations, and there are rampant crime issues. I've fought for years for this project because the north side deserves so much better. Earlier this year, we earmarked $1.1 million for the First Ward Action Council's latest plan to turn dangerous eyesores into safe housing. Executive Director Jerry Willard and his team are advancing a $14 million project to create 38 apartments at 9 First Ward sites, including new construction on Clinton Street. We're continuing our partnership with the Broome County Land Bank. Rob O'Donnell is here representing the Land Bank, rehabilitating vacant homes into new homeownership opportunities. Very soon, once blighted properties on Andrews Ave on the east side and Beethoven Street on the west side are soon going to be ready for new families. $5 million in state funding is helping Binghamton families and seniors who own their homes but need assistance making upgrades like roof replacements and utility upgrades. On Munsell and Liberty Street, a $3.3 million project by Greater Opportunities is underway right now that will build 12 units of housing, with half reserved for seniors, and 100 units of affordable housing at a project run by the Binghamton Housing Authority will be updated, hundreds of units, with a $65 million project at Saratoga on Binghamton's south side. There are even more projects in the pipeline. A $28 million, 61-unit workforce housing project near Mirabito Stadium, a $35 million project by the YWCA to bring new apartments and childcare downtown, a $41 million project on the site of the former DMV on Clinton Street, where 120 apartments will be going, and $3 million of state funding has already been secured. The city allocated funding to support all of these. And these are projects that are actually doing what we all want to do: build more housing. Here's why it matters. Here's a little story. In 2017, Crandall Street on Binghamton's west side was averaging 9 to 10 police calls a week. These blocks were a hub for crime, filled with blighted buildings and little hope. Back then, the city worked with neighbors, including Rosemary Markoff, who's here tonight, and a representative of Safe Streets, and the First Ward Action Council on an $11 million project to revitalize the street, gutting and renovating those homes and creating nearly 40 units of new affordable housing. Today, the police calls on Crandall Street are down 82%. There were 86 calls for service last year, down from 490 the year before construction began. When we build safe, quality, and affordable housing, the entire neighborhood benefits. And the ripple effects can be felt across the community, whether you live in these units or not. Crime dips, surrounding property values increase. Family and kids are set up for better outcomes. It's the type of progress that's helped Binghamton become the first city in New York State recognized as a governor's pro-housing community and received that designation this year. And we're not stopping. Thank you. We're not stopping at funding either. This summer, I announced a series of zoning law reforms to make it easier, faster, and less expensive to develop housing in the city of Binghamton. With the help of Planning Director Juliette Burling and Assistant Director Tito Martinez, the legislation modernizes regulations and cuts red tape to lower costs and speed up approvals. Again, in the budget next year is funding for our code prosecutor position I created my first year in office. This position in our Office of Corporation Counsel, led by Sophie Bergman, has delivered real wins for neighborhoods, bringing landlords to court for housing violations, obtaining fines, but most importantly, getting unsafe conditions fixed in once neglected properties. It's all part of our effort to take on slumlords who put families in danger and drag down entire neighborhoods. Because for Binghamton's families, safety should be City Hall's #1 priority. No department plays a larger role in Binghamton's public safety than police. In 2025, the Binghamton Police Department operations budget will be $15.3 million. It's the largest department by expense in our budget. Since becoming mayor, my work on public safety has been guided by two principles: making investments on our police personnel and supporting smart 21st century policing strategies to keep neighborhoods safe. We're making ground on efforts to build back police ranks. A few years ago, the department was short-staffed by more than 30 officers compared to budgeted positions, or roughly 20% of manpower. Think about your place of business, wherever you work. Imagine if 1 in 5 employees was just no longer there. For the police department, it meant that every officer dealt with more calls, overtime mandates, canceled days off, and understaffed shifts. It was a morale issue that led to more officers leaving the force for a new career or entering early retirement, adding to that vicious cycle. I worked with the police union on a plan of action to address this. We increased salaries to beat out other local agencies competing for the same talent pool. I often say that Binghamton is the premier law enforcement agency in our region, and it was time we paid our officers like it. We expanded recruitment efforts, modernized outdated policies about facial hair and tattoos, invested in new patrol vehicles, and updated personnel policies to retain more officers. The department is soon adding 2 new transfers from other upstate agencies, and joining us tonight are 14 officer trainees now in the academy. Trainees, I'm glad you're here. Please stand. Stand up. Thank you. Thank you for entering the world of public service and doing work to keep our community safe. Thank you so much. That was good. When these recruits graduate and hit the road later this year, the police department will still be short by about 20 officers, but we are trending in the right direction, and we'll hire as many recruits as we can to help build back our ranks off the new civil service exam. With the reforms we've made and the rate of retirement slowing down, we should, over the next 2 to 3 years, be back to full manpower. I said earlier that Binghamton's crime rate is at some of the lowest levels on record, and that's true. Let's talk more about why that is. On top of our efforts to build back the police ranks, our investments in public safety technology, like license plate readers, street cameras, and ballistic imaging, are keeping us ahead of criminals and helping the department solve crimes faster than before. Like most cities, our violent crime is committed by a very small number of people, and in most cases, who almost always know each other. When we can make arrests quickly and remove violent criminals from the streets, we can prevent future shootings. Through the Southern Tier Crime Analysis Center, located here at City Hall, Binghamton Police are working hand in hand with state and federal law enforcement agencies, cracking down on drug traffickers and violent criminals, and are aided by the best technology available. At the same time, we're doing policing the old-fashioned way, putting foot and bike patrols back on neighborhood streets and in our downtown, part of a $1 million investment to reduce gun violence. On both sides of the aisle and at every level of government, there is buy-in that investments in public safety work. Under Governor Hochul, the state has made record investments in law enforcement, providing grants to agencies like Binghamton for new technology, overtime, and manpower to solve crimes. And just last week, the county announced $2 million more in funding going to the Broome County Sheriff's Office, adding positions. Supporting law enforcement resources is a bipartisan priority. In Binghamton, we've reached the point where we can't repeat the mistakes of the past. We must learn from history as it relates to policing and avoid thinking that with lower crime rates and increasing costs, now may be the right time to reduce resources, take them away from law enforcement, eliminate positions in an effort to balance the budget. It's a cycle we have seen before. It was President Biden who said, community policing becomes a victim of its own success. As crime goes down, so too does public pressure to focus on policing. Not in Binghamton. We must continue to hire the best officers to fill our ranks, increasing our ability to do proactive community policing that works. We have to invest in technology and programs that make our community safer, special units for hotspot policing, undercover narcotics investigations, traffic safety details, school resource officers, and collaborations with neighborhood watch groups. And most importantly, we have to continue to build back a patrol division that is fully staffed for every shift. We must strive to have the best trained, most compassionate, diverse, and dedicated police force we can. Using this momentum, let's double down on public safety and permanently change our city as it relates to crime. We know the playbook, let's execute it. I've spent a lot of tonight talking about the complex challenges and tough decisions facing local government like ours. But of course, it's not just municipalities that are dealing with rising costs that make it difficult to balance the budget. Families across Binghamton are facing the same challenges. They're paying more at the grocery store, more in rent and utilities, more everywhere they turn. In building the city's budget for 2025, funding the services residents deserve while keeping property tax bills from jumping was my top priority. The 2025 budget will include a modest increase in our tax levy, 0.9% increase rate for homeowners. For most Binghamton residents, this will be about a $15 difference over their property tax bill compared to last year. This keeps us well below the tax cap and in line with responsible fiscal management. As many school districts and municipalities vote to exceed their tax caps, we continue to stay well below it, choosing not to overburden taxpayers while still investing in the projects and services they deserve. Some closing thoughts this evening. Putting together a $108 million spending plan that accounts for the needs of our residents and the bold priorities for our future is no small task. Every department head at City Hall is called upon to make tough decisions. New in their roles, Comptroller Chuck Robinson and Assistant Comptroller Rachel Perkins put in countless hours searching for cost savings at every turn. Lori Cliff, who retired from City Hall earlier this year after decades of service, returned to help, lending her unmatched budget experience. Also with the help of Deputy Mayor Megan Hyman, who worked to put together not just this address, but the funding priorities for each department. A strong budget simply would not be possible without them. Please join me in thanking them. Chuck, Rachel, stand up. Lori, stand up. Finally tonight, we are 50 days away from an election, in case no one in the room had heard. This election will certainly define our political landscape for the next 4 years and probably shape the course of American history. It's become a powerful force in our lives, politics has. It's torn families apart, turned neighbor against neighbor, eroded faith in important institutions, and led to gridlock everywhere we look. Some of our constituents look at Washington, the extreme positions, the move to define people who disagree with you as enemies, the posturing, the dominance of special interests above ordinary citizens, and figure that's how things work everywhere, including in local government. Part of our mission should be to prove them wrong, not retreating to our corners, avoiding difficult conversations, refusing to work together on problems we all agree need to be fixed. For those of us around this table lucky enough to be here because voters decided to trust us, because neighbors sent us to work on their behalf, we owe it to them to take that responsibility very seriously. For too long, there's been too much stacked up against us in Binghamton, too much cynicism, too many willing to overlook our city, to write it off as a place whose best days are behind it. But for all of the reasons I've outlined tonight, that tide is changing. And the only way we can make sure that progress continues is by working together. The plan I've laid out tonight is ambitious, there's no doubt. And it should be clear the passion that I have for the city, how seriously I take my role as mayor, how I believe that it matters what we do in this building for the future of Binghamton residents and our broader community too. I'm reminded too that no one else will advocate for Binghamton like we can. It's up to us. And where some only see big challenges, we have to continue to see big opportunities. Block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood. Let's rewrite Binghamton's future. Thank you very much and good night. Nice job, thank you. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you, Mayor. All right. I wish we saw all of you more often. Come visit us at City Council anytime. Great energy. Thank you all so much. And with that, I'll be looking for a motion to adjourn. Oh, I think I'm going to go with Councilman Kavanaugh on the motion to adjourn. Seconded by Councilwoman Middleton. All in favor? Any opposed? Great. Please feel free to come and interact with council. We'd love to speak with you all.